Hello, and welcome to your quick hit from The Seven Hats, a segment that I like to call the Daily Hat. This short segment is a preview, a snapshot of our full episode that's coming up this Thursday. It's here to give you a little bit of insight, spark of inspiration, and just a hint of curiosity about what our full episode has in store for you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for your continued support of the Seven Hats podcast. It really means so much to us. Now, let's dive into today's Daily Hat. Ready to get a taste of what we've got in store for you this week? Let's get started.
Steve Jobs, obviously, the genius of marketing, found his angle, and his angle was we honor the creators, the creatives out there.
Right.
And that was his way of taking a box and making it a love object for many creators, especially in his commercial, honoring the geniuses out there who want to change the world by saying, you know, if Einstein was still alive, you know he would use a Mac. And so that's kind of where he was going with it. But as a consultant, somebody's hiring you for a product that is somewhat of a commodity, as an example. So potentially software, like a sales software, like Salesforce.com or HubSpot, you know, one of these marketing or sales. There's a million of them. How can you elicit emotion with those types of products? How do you have the person who's using it relate it to themselves and their identity instead of just having a commodity and price is the issue?
Yeah. So there's two ways to think about this, right? So one way is to say, we're just going to do what's easiest and most natural for people. They're going to look at this piece of software as a commodity, as a tool. And we're not going to try to get them to look at it in any different way. And we're just going to try to work sort of in that world. And the advantage of that is that that's the most natural way for people to approach your commodity product. And so you don't have to try and force them to do something that isn't really such an easy sell, so natural for them. Oftentimes, that kind of marketing favors larger companies because the kinds of things you're going to want to do if you want to take that approach is distribution is really important. It's got to be what I call the useful, pleasant, easy strategy. So the product itself needs to be useful. The experience of using it needs to be at least reasonably pleasant. It should not be painful and frustrating and horrible.
And then, Salesforce is out of the picture right there.
And then everything has to be easy, right? So the distribution, it should be distributed really broadly so that it's really easy to buy. And the advertising should be ubiquitous so that people are it's top of mind. You know, it's like Coke. When people think about, like, what do I want to drink? Like Coke, this comes to mind because they advertise so much.
Yes.
So it's easy to think about. So that kind of an approach, which is, you know, we're not going to target a small group of people. We're going to look at everyone who might want to get this product, and we're going to try to increase the likelihood a little bit that, you know, that people who are maybe going to get this, instead of maybe of a 20% chance of getting it, we're going to see if we can get that to a 25% chance that they'll buy it. That kind of mass marketing, that can actually work well. It's harder for smaller entrepreneurs to do that. So if you're a smaller entrepreneur, one of the big assets you have is yourself. So the way that people love products, there's three sort of mechanisms to this. First, the product has to be exceptionally good. Nobody's going to love a product that's mediocre. Nobody falls in love with a person and then tells their best friend, oh, I just fell in love with the most mediocre person. No, when you fall in love with a person, right, you think they're great. And when you fall in love with a product, you think it's great. So no one's going to fall in love with your product unless they think it's great. But even if they think it's great, that's not enough. They also have to think about the product using a lot of the same thought processes that they use when they think about a person. So the brain has to classify it as a person. And in order to classify it as a person, there's three ways to do that. One way is through anthropomorphism, which is a fancy way of saying the product itself looks like, talks like, sounds like a person. So Siri is anthropomorphic. You talk to Siri, she talks back to you. Your brain hears that and jumps to the conclusion that this is a person. And people fall in love with products that are anthropomorphic pretty readily. Even with Siri, so many people tell Siri that they love her that Apple had to develop like little comebacks. So like, what do you say? What does Siri reply? We'll say that, Siri, I love you. My favorite one is, I bet you say that to all the Apple products.
Yeah.
So that's one way of doing it. That's not the most common. The second way that is the most common among entrepreneurs is you associate the product closely with a person. So if you think about it, a lot of the products you love, especially if they're from a smaller business, it's because there's a person there that you feel some sort of a connection to. And you don't have to really love the person. Like this is an example. There's a Korean restaurant that my wife and I used to go to. And we really enjoyed the fact that the manager / hostess of the restaurant recognized us and would say hello and knew our names. And we felt this great connection to her that she would smile when she saw us and have a little chit chat. So they changed the restaurant and we didn't like it as much and we kind of stopped going. And I didn't feel so bad about not going, but I went back and walked in and there was the hostess again and she recognized me and was very nice to me. And in my heart I was like, oh, I got to come back to this place. Right? Well, why did I feel that way? I don't feel that way. It's not because I really feel that way about the bricks in the building. I feel that way because I connected to this person. And it's our relationships with people that evoke those kinds of feelings. So as an entrepreneur, to an enormous extent, any emotions people have about your business are really going to be emotions they have about you. And a lot of selling the business is building trust and creating a relationship with your clients where they genuinely believe that you are looking out for their best interest. So if you can create a relationship where the client genuinely believes that you're in it for the long haul, they know you're a business, they know you want to make money, but they believe that if they ask you a question and the honest answer is going to make you less money or even no money, that you will just immediately give them the honest answer anyway.
Yeah.
Then they'll respond to that with a love for your brand and your business and an emotional connection. So a lot of it then comes down to you as a person. And so that's the second way. So the first way is anthropomorphism. You make the product itself seem like a person somehow. The much more common way is that you connect the product with a person. You get those views together. And the third way that I started talking about a few minutes ago is you get them to see the product as part of their own identity. And that happens a lot with more consumer products.